Hello everyone. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to Ekascloud for providing me with the opportunity to share my insight on cloud computing with AWS. My name is Nikhil and I'm 42 years old. I'm originally from Thrissur, Kerala, where I completed my education and earned postgraduate degree in physics. In my professional journey, I'm currently employed as a senior technology architect at Oracle Cerner. My role encompasses a combination of technical expertise, strategic planning, and team management. Before joining in Oracle, I worked at Siemens Healthcare, where I managed complex healthcare applications and the associated hardware. I also have experience in the IT service domain and began my career as an IT trainer. I have achieved certification in MCSE, ITIL Foundation Certification, MCP, MCTS, and AWS Solution Architect Associate Certificate. My current objective is to master AWS, and to achieve this, I have enrolled in Ekascloud for personalized one-to-one training. Throughout this video series, I will delve into commonly used services in AWS. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment and I will be happy to respond. In today's class, we will discuss about EC2. So what is EC2? EC2 is one of the most popular of AWS offering. EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. Using EC2, you can actually rent virtual machines in AWS Cloud. EC2 is the way to do infrastructure as a service on AWS Cloud. EC2 is not just a single service, it contains multiple other features as well. Let's take a look at the EC2 service console. I have logged into AWS console, and to locate the EC2 service, you can type the EC2 service in the services search bar and launch the EC2 service by clicking on the EC2 icon. Now what you see in the screen is the EC2 web service console. To launch a virtual machine in AWS Cloud, you can utilize the instances sections in the EC2 service. Go to instances section and click on launch instances so that a new window will open wherein you can create the instances in AWS Cloud. Apart from creating instances, I told you there are other features as well. You can see AMIs. AMI means Amazon Machine Images. Basically, this contains various operating system images. You can select the required images from the AMI section. Okay, we will cover this later. And there is a storage services respective to the EC2 instance. You can store your data in these storages. Again, there is a network and firewall section, load balancing section, and auto scaling. We will cover all these topics little later today. So before creating EC2 instance, let's look into the required component to create an EC2 instance. You know that to create an EC2, to create a virtual machine, basically we need a CPU and memory. So here we need virtual CPU and virtual memory, and we have to attach an operating system image. Need an operating system, and to load the operating system we need a storage, right? So basically we need CPU memory, a virtual CPU and virtual memory, an operating system image. To load the operating system image we need storage, and again we need a network interface card so that the system can connect to the network or internet. And similarly we need a security group. We need security or firewall, right, to protect the instance. Also, you can create a bootstrap script which will install uh, required softwares for our EC2 instance. During the operating system launch itself, these softwares will get installed. I'll show you in the demo. In this section, we will create an EC2 instance. So to create an instance, on the left pane, expand the instances, click on the instances, then there is an option to launch instances in the top right corner. A new window has been opened. So the first section is name. Here you can provide the name of your EC2 instance. I'm going to add my first instance, my first EC2. Okay. Since I'm going to create a Windows instance, adding Windows, you can add additional tags. So tag is nothing but to like if you are provisioning this EC2 instance for a project, suppose beta project, you can create a new tag by mentioning the project name, project. Suppose this is beta, and again you can add another tag for identify the department, like department, like suppose I'm going to create this for finance. Like that, you can add multiple tags associated to the instance. And this section is for selecting the required operating system image for our EC2 instance. And there are plenty of operating system images available in AWS. The most commonly used AMIs will be listed in the quick start section. And if you are unable to find your required AMI, we can click on browse more AMI section. For the time being, we are creating Windows instance which is already available in the quick start section. So I'm selecting the free tier eligible operating system, Windows operating system from the drop down. There are multiple operating system from Windows is eligible for free tier usage. So I'm selecting the Windows Server 2022 base operating system. Okay. And in the description, you can see the full name of the operating system and the image, and the operating system architecture. It is 64-bit. The next section contains instance types. In this category, you can select a CPU memory combination. So there are free tier eligible combinations. Since I'm using a free tier account, I'm supposed to select only the free tier eligible CPU memory combination. But if you are creating for your organization requirement, you can select the required memory and processor combination from this category. For time being, I'm selecting T2 micro, which is eligible for free tier usage. So I have selected T2 micro, which is 1 GB memory and one CPU, one virtual CPU, and you can see the per hour rate for using this instance. Next section is talking about the key pair. This is very important. If you miss to select the key pair for your EC2 instance, you won't be able to connect to the EC2 instance after launching. Using this key pair combination, you can control the access to your EC2 instance. A key pair consists of a public key and a private key. So whatever information you are encrypting with the public key, same can be decrypted using private, and vice versa. Suppose you are provisioning an EC2 instance, and if you are attaching a key pair, the public key will be attached to the EC2 instance, and if you don't have a private key to connect, you won't be able to connect to the EC2 instance. Okay, so basically this is to prove, the key pairs are used to prove your identity. An important point you should remember, like the key pairs are regional specific. Currently I have logged into Mumbai region, and whatever key pair I'm creating in this region, those key pairs will not be available in other region. One more point, like you don't need to create key pairs for each and every instances. One key pair is enough to manage your AWS infrastructure. Again, this is based on your organization requirement. Suppose if you have a production systems and non-production system, you can have multiple key pairs. It's all based on the requirement, and you can create maximum 5,000 key pairs in a region. So let's try to create a key pair. To create a key pair, Click on that create new key pair link. A new page will open wherein you have to provide the name. I'm going to provide the name Nikhil training. And there are two kind of key pair types. One is RSA and another one is ED25519. Another important point, suppose you are creating a pool of EC2 instance which contains multiple operating system like Windows and Linux. You should select the RSA because RSA will support both Windows and Linux machines. But ED25519 support only the Linux or Unix systems. Okay, so please keep this in mind. So we are selecting RSA. There are two kind of file format, .pem format and .ppk format. Using PEM format, you can establish the RDP, MSDSE, RDP connections or SSH. Also, you can use the WinSCP. So those kind of tools support the PEM. But if you are using PuTTY to connect to your EC2 instances, you need a PPK format. So based on your requirement, select the required file format. Since I'm using SSH and RDP, I'm okay with .pem. So when I click on the create key pair, the public key will be saved in our AWS infrastructure, but we will be able to download the private key. See, it is asking me to save the private key. Nikhil training. I have saved this private key. An important point, if I delete this private key, I will lose the access to the EC2 instance. So please save your private keys in a secured locations. The next section for creating EC2 instance is the network settings. I'm not going to explain all of the parameters in this section because these are big topics. We will cover this later. Let's select the default options, but in subnet, I'm going to put the EC2 instance in a particular availability zone. So since I'm logged into Mumbai region, you know that there are three availability zone. I'm going to place my EC2 instance in availability zone AP South 1A. Again, you don't need to select this. You can choose the default one. Let's assign a public IP automatically. Without public IP, if you set this disable, you won't be able to connect to that instance because to connect an instance, you need a public IP. So I'm going to enable this option. Let's move with the next settings, which is firewall, also called security group. By default, all the incoming connection, we call it as inbound connections to the instance is blocked. That means RDP, SSH, WinSCP, Telnet, all the connections are blocked and all the outbound connection from the instance is opened. That means the instance will be able to communicate to the outside world, but our any connection to the instance is by default blocked. Okay, so I'm going to create a security group. By default there is a security group. In that, all the incoming is blocked, outgoing is enabled. You can edit those settings, or I'm going to create a new security group. Click on create security group. I'm going to provide a name for my security group. Let it be since I'm going to open only RDP and this is for Windows. By looking into the name, uh, I know that this is for Windows, and in this security group, RDP port is opened. And you can also add the description to identify to get more details on the security group. You can add that. One important point: security group is also regional specific. The security group, this security group, what I'm going to create, RDP Windows, will not be available in other region. Okay. So RDP, the port 3389, and it is source is anywhere. I can access the EC2 instance from anywhere. Suppose if I have a permanent IP, I can choose my IP. Okay. Since I don't have a permanent IP, I'm selecting anywhere. Again, if I want to add SSH or any other port or FTP or HTTP, I can add additional rules as well. Let's move to the next section, which is configure storage. By default, a 30 GB of storage is attached for our EC2 instance. You can also increase the size. Let's use the default 30 GB. The storage type is showing GP2. If you expand, you can see other type storage as well: GP3, GP2, IO1, IO2, and SC1, ST1, magnetic. We will cover these topics in another session. So let's select the GP2. GP2 and GP3 are free tier eligible. Root volume in the sense where the operating system reside. You can also create additional volumes. Suppose if you need additional disk for your EC2 instance for installing any proprietary software or any user data, you can have a new volume. It's again based on your requirement. That's it. And clicking on EC2 launch instance, your instance will be created and it will be ready in another 2 to 3 minutes. I'm going to create only one instance. If you want to create more instances, provide the number here and click on launch instance. That's it. Let's go back to the instances main screen to see the more details about the instance which we created. So this is the instance we created. You can see the name my first EC2 instance and a unique ID assigned to the instance. The status is showing, the instance state is showing running. You can stop the instance by selecting the stop instance option from the instance state. Once you stop, you can start it. You can reboot the instance, also hibernate and terminate. Once you terminate, you won't be able to retrieve the instance. You have to create a brand new instance. Okay, the instance type is showing T2 micro, which is a one CPU, a general purpose one CPU with 1 GB RAM. 2 by 2 means the instance as well as the underlying hardware is also able to make connection to the internet. The availability is on showing 1A. While we provision the instance, we selected IP version 4 enabled. So there is a public IP address and there is a DNS name associated with this instance. We can connect to the instance either by using the DNS name or the public IP address. This is the security group which we created during the instance creation. You know that this security group contains uh, an inbound port 3389, which is RDP port, which is open so that we will be able to connect to the instance, and a key pair. The public key is associated with the instance. Private keys locally downloaded my laptop. So while connecting to the instance, I will be using the private key. And lot more other details you can see in this section. Let's try to connect to the instance. So to connect this instance, select the instance and on the top right corner you can see the connect button. Since this is a Windows client, we will be using the RDP client software. So in Windows, since I'm using a Windows laptop, I can use the command mstsc. Okay, let's check the public DNS name. Copy paste the public DNS name and the user is administrator. To get the password, as I told you, to get the password, we have to upload the private key so that the password will get decrypted. Click on get password, upload the private key. So this is the private key. Decrypt the password, copy the password, and let's try to connect. It will prompt the password. Yes, we got a response from the server. Once we enter the password, yes, this is a self-signed certificate for the encrypted communication. I accepted it. Now we are connected to the EC2 instance. That's about the demo.